you. Oh, great. Thank you, Rima. Good morning, everyone. My name is BC. I'm the Outreach and Partnership Manager for Manitoba Immigrant Employment Council, a project funded by IRCC under Regional Connections. And this is one of our employer webinar series, and we're glad to have you here. Thank you very much. We have our partners from WES joining us from Toronto all the way to, give the do a presentation on employer playbook about inclusive hiring, onboarding, retention, and integration. And so joining us this morning is that would be going first is Daniel Seven-Gill, the Associate Director of Employer Initiatives, and he'll take the first part of the presentation before we have the other colleague also join to do a presentation. Thank you very much. Please note that this webinar will be recorded for reference and for us to also have the recording on our website, and for anyone that also needs any information or resources from the webinar, so we can always refer to it. Thank you very much, and I'll pass it on to Daniel. Thank you.
Thank you so much, BC, and it's been a pleasure always working with Manitoba IEC, and so thanks for the invitation. And oh gosh, I miss Winnipeg folks in Manitoba, so we should connect soon. And we've had the pleasure of working very closely with some of you in events in Winnipeg. So maybe before getting started, I would like to maybe just introduce to you all WES and our work. At World Education Services, we are a nonprofit social enterprise that's dedicated to the success of immigrants, refugees, and international students. We work at the intersection of education, workforce development, philanthropy, policy, advocacy, and research. And we just celebrated our 25th anniversary in Canada last year. We employ a mix of levers to help build inclusive economies, and we do that. We couldn't do that alone. We do that in partnership with amazing organizations such as the Manitoba IEC and many others also in the province. Our vision is that everyone is able to put their education, experience, and skills to work anywhere in the world. And our mission is to help people learn, work, and thrive in new places, helping society recognize the value of people's education and experience. So you see in the next slide that WES has entered now a new 10-year strategy. And our focus for the strategy is to expand immigrant access to good work. When we say good work, we mean jobs that pay a living wage, that recognize education and skills that have been earned in other countries, and that also supports people's long-term goals and aspirations professionally. What we see often is that there are structural barriers, fragmented pathways, and limited recognition of international experience. That, combined with inequitable hiring practices and other structural barriers, continue to prevent many immigrants from first accessing good jobs and then advancing faster and growing faster within those professions. And so those are two of the pillars, our impact aspirations. The third one we mentioned as well here is over the next 3 years, we're going to be having a specific focus on health and direct care. As you know, labor markets are shifting, and we still see critical workforce shortages in those sectors. These are sectors that also typically employ a large number of immigrants and refugees. They do play an essential role in addressing the labor gaps in the sector, but at the same time, there is room to ensure there is greater dignity, stability, and mobility in those jobs. So those are like really the three key pillars of our strategy moving forward. So on the next slide, to begin, we wanted to set the stage just with a reminder of some of the key demographic and immigration data. As you may know, Canada's population as of today is about 41.7 million people. and immigrants make up approximately 23% of that population. Now, coming out of the pandemic, some of you may know, but Canada significantly expanded temporary resident pathways to address labor shortages. So by 2023, temporary residents represented about 6.2% of the population, which was up from roughly 1.5 only in 2019. There's been a lot of discussion around immigration levels over the past couple of years, and certainly under the new administration. And so the federal government is now aiming for more sustainable levels of immigration by stabilizing permanent resident admissions for the next 3 years and decreasing substantially the temporary resident population. I don't know if some of you as employers have relied on the temporary foreign worker program. So there's been really substantial changes in how those are managed. And in the next slide, while we see that the levels are decreasing, the trend, because of the aging population and because of the retirement of the boomers and many others, is that immigration will continue to be the driver of growth in our country. You see in this slide that immigrants now account for almost 80% of net labor force growth, but this figure is expected to grow to close to 100% by 2030. We know that immigrants coming into Canada through the express entry, through the permanent pathways, they're highly educated, they're ready to contribute, and yet they face barriers to really ensuring that their skills and experiences are fully recognized and utilized in the labor market. And so in the next slide, we've talked about some of the policy changes around immigration. We all know there's also major economic and societal shifts happening with AI. The world is changing really rapidly around us, but unfortunately, what has not changed is that we as a nation continue to underutilize the talent of the millions of immigrants and refugees that live in Canada today. We have made progress in the journey of integration of newcomers, but the reality is that even today, 1 in 3 immigrants work in jobs that do not use their skills. The story is known to all of us. We know civil engineers that are working as crossing guards, nurses that are working as health aides, Uber drivers that have a doctor degree. So this is not a skills gap, it's a policy gap, it's even a cultural shift gap. And this is costing us. According to RBC, Canada is losing up to 50 billion annually in GDP due to the underemployment of immigrants. And you'll see some of the figures here. In the next slide, we break this down a little bit further. In a recent Statistics Canada report, it became very clear how the immigrants are often, there are more immigrants that are overqualified for the jobs they're in, and there are more immigrants in a job that is not related to their field of study than Canadian-born workers. And I don't need to say this to you as employers, as businesses. We know that the underutilization of skills leads to lower productivity. And so we hope that today's presentation will really be that kind of conversation starter, like maybe giving you some tips, practical tips on how to support you in that process of recognizing the skills and the experience of immigrants that may apply for jobs within your companies, but also how to support employees that may be part of the company to access opportunities beyond what their current role is, so that they can fully contribute to your business. And finally, before digging into the employer playbook, we wanted to also share a couple of slides that with Manitoba specific information. The first slide, actually, David, if you can go to the next one first. Yeah. So the first slide, we show the provincial unemployment rates. And as we can see, the provinces, it depends really by industry, right? And I don't know what industries you all work in, I'll be curious as we go into the conversation later in today's presentation to hear more about your experience. But in some of the key industries in the province, such as accommodation and food services, transportation, warehousing, manufacturing, it's actually quite low. So it's what it's considered full employment, really. And so what that tells us is that if we see in the next slide, so going back to the other one, David, we see that projections for labor force growth through 2029 indicate that new immigrants will continue to be the top source of labor in the province. Over half of all of the new entrants into the labor market will come from immigration. And so, to me, this points to two facts. Employers who learn strategies to attract, retain, fully utilize immigrant talent will have a competitive edge. The question is not if we will need immigrant talent, the question is when, and the question is how do we make sure that we are tapping into that talent source. And so, as I said, and I'll wrap up here, we really hope that this is just a collection of some of the tips and some of them really easy to use adaptations that you can do to your hiring practices that can give you the competitive edge in an economy where we're headed, where immigrants will become really a key source of talent and labor. So I'll turn it over now to my colleague David, and looking forward to the conversation later. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daniel, for the very helpful introduction. Also, the grounding at the both federal and provincial level. I think that's very critical for us to begin weighing in and explain more about the employer playbook. But again, good morning, colleagues. My name is David Yan. I'm the Senior Manager of Employer Solutions at WES, working closely with Daniel. So before starting the, have a deeper dive into the employer playbook itself, so I would like to give everyone a quick introduction about the context as to how we really started the design and conceptualization of the employer playbook. So at the team Employer Solutions at the WES, so really connecting immigrant talents with commensurate and meaningful job is really our bread and butter. So we have one of the important engagement initiative, which is the hashtag immigrants work. So by definition, immigrants work through this initiative, we were just trying to mobilize employers with their respective community stakeholders into co-design activities with the aim to kind of, identify and co-develop really community-specific solutions that affect immigrant integration into the community workforce. So the employer playbook is one of the direct project output from hashtag immigrants work. So I know that today we have quite a few colleagues from the province. So just in case you heard of this hashtag immigrants work initiative previously, so don't surprise, because we do work with Winnipeg and Manitoba partners closely over the phase 2 of immigrants work between 2023 to 2025. And I see Carolina from Immigration Partnership Winnipeg is one of the audience today. So in case you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Carolina, because she is really the local leader together with our team. Okay, now let's shift our attention back to the employer playbook. So the employer playbook is really kind of a meat-sized, completely digitized employer resource. And I think that the biggest value proposition from my perspective is how easy it is for the employers to pull it into use. So really the user experience is one of the top parameter when we kind of make the resource come into place. So if you look at the resource, we really try to kind of capture the relevant resources, the tips, focusing on the full employment cycle. So the playbook consists of 4 sections covering recruiting, hiring, onboarding, and integrating. So I think in today's presentation, I will just try to pick some key learnings and strategies from the playbook and give everybody a quick voiceover. Now, if you look at the employer playbook, I think that structure-wise, it is very straightforward, easy to use for employers. Basically, consisting of 20 strategies and tools relating to the 4 sections of the employment cycle. And also, it is a completely digitized resource. So if your employers, if you narrow down a specific strategy that is really you feel very interested in, you can just move your mouse and cursor and click on the specific section. Then you have a new kind of classifiable actions with the tax and relatively and respective downloadable assets. So we have 16 checklists for you to be for you to download and save for future reference. And also the playbook also is a kind of one-stop information hub. It contains 28 kind of external links pointing you to relevant external programs and resources across Canada. Okay, so after the structure, then we can basically look into the 4 employment specific sections and see what it includes. So speaking of the recruiting, I think it all began for employers in terms of the drafting a job description, because that's really the first interface for employers to engage with the new hires, right? So in terms of the drafting, I think it all comes first down to the identifying what are the essential skills and what are the non-essentials. So there's a 2018 Harvard Business Review article basically saying that for men, job seekers, they will apply for a job if they think that they meet at least 60% of the job description. But for women, I think the percentage usually is approaching to 100%. And I think this kind of the gender divide is also kind of applies to the immigrant talents. So depending on the cultural context that are coming from. So that's why I think for employers, it's really important to kind of distinguish what are those really the red line hard skills you're looking at, and what are those better to have non-essential duties. So you are not, skill out of the immigrant talents that could be very capable of your jobs. Now, when you have the skills sorted out, then the second step is to really make the wording, the framing of your job description to be inclusive. So we have a link here, but basically, I think for employers, try not to use complex words, technical terminology, not make the word the text reads more jargony, and also whenever you use acronyms, try to make it fully spell out, so it's not it's just for the information of the immigrant job seekers. For example, so when you're looking for someone with the hands-on, actionable project management skills, you can just put it down, and instead of saying a PMP certification, the chances are it is kind of a strange acronym for seekers from certain countries and regions. So moving on to the hiring phase, I think if we wanted to reach an absolute consensus within this group, I think the conclusion is that every one of us, we have a bias. So I mean, so trying to mitigate the bias is important in the hiring phase. And the employer playbook has 3 specific strategies to tackling this bias, including panel the panel composition to mitigate the bias, the tips in terms of the screening the resumes, and also the importance to really adopt a competence-based test to evaluate the job seekers' hard skills. Now, in terms of the composition of the hiring panel, I think it goes without saying that really a diverse panel will give the interview viewers an opportunity to really compare and contrast the opinions and perspectives. And on the right-hand side, you can see a whole list of parameters which you can think of as you're approaching the setup of your interview panel. And in terms of the review of the resume itself, there are several kind of key considerations here. So in terms of the overall readability, spelling, and grammatical errors, so I think things happen. Obviously, right now in the AI era, sometimes the resumes may appear too good to be true. So, but in term, just in case employers, if you run into grammar errors, I think one of the key consideration here is that people make mistakes, and sometimes a grammatical error does not mean that does not imply that the job seeker's kind of professional attitude or the person's speaking abilities, right? So just take it with a critical lens. Then in terms of the length of time at previous job, so I think certain level of movement from one employer to another provides learning opportunities. So for example, like working at the workplace, a mediocre workplace for 3 years may not excel compared to working at a very knowledge-based organization for 1 year. So also that's another kind of consideration when you look at that specific dimension of the resume. Types of position held at previous jobs. So consider candidates who have not necessarily had the same job in another organization, but bring complementary skills. So this is the part where I think for employers, we need to be aware of the transferable skills that the job seekers can bring. And especially if you look at the immigrant talents. So they also bring their lived life experience from another context. So it also kind of a value add to the competition. Now, looking to the gaps in employment history. So gaps in candidates' work history can sometimes send signals that a candidate is unreliable or likely to quit your job soon. But sometimes the job seekers just leave the workforce for a variety of reasons. The chances are that the visa process for immigration can be lengthy, and sometimes especially for regulated professions, the whole kind of licensure and accreditation process can be tedious and challenging. It is. And for immigrant talents in general, I think the gaps is just more than common because immigrants make to make things happen sometimes just need to stay afloat. So really the gaps. I think if you have any questions, so we would recommend you just clarify with the job seekers in interviews without having any kind of unnecessary preoccupations. Then looking at the education, so really we would recommend employers to take into consideration both education and work experience, because we know that life and work itself is education by itself, right? So really try to identify what are those skills and competencies you want to evaluate outside simply an educational credential. So this, if the employers can look, be in mind of these 5 parameters of the resume screening, I think to some extent we can mitigate the unconscious bias in the hiring phase. Now, since we just talked about educational credentials, I think it is a natural segue for us to introduce this specific tool. So I'm not sure if partners here, if you heard of this degree equivalency tool from WES, but yeah, this is just a very simple and easy to use tool from our company. And so we will circulate the deck after the call. So you can try and put your fingers onto this tool. Basically, it can quickly showcase a specific credential from a given country or region and its respective Canadian equivalent. Now, so I think that tool I just talk about is very kind of helpful and yeah, just it's very handy. But sometimes for employers, when you interview candidates, job seekers or candidates who are refugees or forcibly displaced individuals, chances are they just cannot provide the official academic documents directly from their school because of war, a conflict, or maybe natural disasters. So this is why in 2016, in response to the arrival of Syrian refugees in Canada, so at WES, we developed a new methodology to conduct evaluations based on the documents people had in possession. And also we partnered with community agencies to reach individuals who needed this service across Canada. And with 3 years in 2018 at WES, we officially launched the WES Gateway program. And it really basically creates a pathway for these individuals to get a credential evaluation and advance towards their professional aspirations. So far, the Gateway programs is available in both Canada and the United States. And the service is applicable to job seekers from 10 countries and regions. And they're Afghanistan, Eritrea, Iran, Iraq, Palestine, Syria, Sudan, Turkey, Ukraine, and Venezuela. So just in case employers, you have the chance to interview these forcibly displaced individuals, remember this is always a pathway for them to showcase their educational trajectory. So in this map, you can see we have worked with 68 partners across the country, specifically tied to the Gateway program. And in Manitoba, we have 2 referral partners. There's Success Go Center in Winnipeg and Westman Immigrant Services in Brandon. Now, so in this slide, very quickly, you can see a list of the organizations, the entities who have used the Gateway certificate recognition from Manitoba. All right. So we've covered the job description, the drafting, also the interview, the screening of the resumes. Then chances are for employers, you have already secured the new hire and exciting to plan for the onboarding. And I would say that successful retention of employees really begin at the onboarding phase. So thinking from the perspective of the new hire, it can be very challenging to really navigate the written and unwritten rules of a new workplace. So this is why the playbook includes a whole section on mentorship and other peer support models. So I think the first one, the peer buddy program, I think it is someone who partners with a new employee during the employee's first 2 to 3 months of employment. So this buddy basically can become a known and reliable source for things that may seem too trivial to continually ask one's supervisor. So some of the key attributes of the buddy in terms of the selection. So the buddy really represents a reliable, motivated, single point of contact. So for employers to really identify the buddies, there are several key attributes. First one is the buddy really needs to be a role model. Basically the person need to really live and represent the company values. Second is really about the motivation. So the buddy has to be a motivated worker and have a positive outlook on his or her own work and use that perspective to help create self-confidence and loyalty in the new hire. Third tip, so the buddy has to be a knowledgeable professional, is equipped to help guide the new hire in many situations based on the buddy's own experience and knowledge obtained in the work environment. Last but not least, so it would be great that the buddy is culturally sensitive, and ideally, so the buddy can speak the same language with the new hire. So yeah, this is some consideration about the buddy. Now, besides the buddy program and looking at onboarding, we always try to schedule and plan onboarding plans ties to these 3 Ps, basically the people, performance, and paperwork. Speaking of which, the people really mean by so what are the onboarding meetings and who are those people that you hire we're going to meet? What are the cadence in what sequence? So and also like the scheduling and planning of informal social events and group onboarding activities. So this is all very important, at least people-wise, to the new hire. Speaking of the performance, so examples include that job shadowing, setting expectations, and providing feedback. So one of the tips at WES is that whenever we try to onboard a new team member, we have this 30, 60, 90 template. So basically, setting out very clear expectations to new hire. So basically, what are your goals at the 1 month, 2 months, and 3 months checkpoint? So in this way, just avoid any kind of lead surprise to the new hire. Paperwork-wise, also very critical. It basically covers the company orientation, handbook, policies, resources, and forms. So whatever that, the new hires need to be aware of before waiting in on the actual work. All right, so past the onboarding. So I think obviously to really make an inclusive workplace, it doesn't stop. And employers have need to extend their efforts beyond recruiting, interviewing, and onboarding. So inclusion is also is equally about helping your existing staff grow with the new talents. So in this slide, I think it is critical especially for the leaders at your organizations to some key principles to adopt to ensure that your workplace is inclusive to the immigrant talents. So I think it is not surprise for some of us. We have worked with leaders who are coming from a more homogeneous model. I think really the aspiration is for us to kind of seek and achieve the transition from the homogeneous to the diversity panel on the right-hand side. So I think very importantly, it is not only the responsibility of the immigrant employees themselves to navigate the cultural differences within the workplace, but employers need to acknowledge and also value the different approaches and perspectives that immigrant talents bring to the workplace, instead of seeing the differences as a liability to the organization. Okay, I think I probably will stop here. So I think we have 25 minutes left. So I think for my part, I just try to break down the employer playbook into digestible nuggets and give everybody a quick voice over. So after the call, I strongly recommend everybody to have a chance to review the employer playbook by yourself and see what do we mean by digitize this employer resource and what are those downloadable assets look like. So we do have a few questions here. So I think maybe I can copy and paste and drop the questions into the chat box and we can see everyone. So let's have a meaningful kind of conversation using the last part of today's presentation. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, David. Great presentation. Thank you so much for breaking it down. I was just, taking notes and writing and picking from everything, even though I have the presentation deck already. It's very interesting to note that there is a lot that can be done to support newcomer inclusion at the workplace, especially in a for culturally sensitive newcomers. So I just feel the peer body program would be a great support system for most of the newcomers to be able to thrive at the workplace. And I'm happy there are lots of resources in place to provide this support. So, okay, great. You pasted the questions. It would be great for us to have conversations. Please feel free to unmute yourself if you have any answers to any of these questions on the challenges you or your partners are currently facing with onboarding and retaining immigrant employees. I also have a question, but let's go into it very quickly. Krishna, would you like to unmute and speak, please?
Hello, guys. Good morning, first of all. My voice is clear?
Yes, very clear, loud and clear. We can hear you. Thank you for
actually,
joining.
I have some throat infection. That's why I ask you. My voice is clear. Uh, Thank you so much for this very informative session. See, I'm a new immigrant, and mostly I have been here from since 8 months. But I'm from India, and I already recognize my education with WES before landing here, and it's a credential, a 3 years bachelor degree. Means my bachelor degree is considered 3 years bachelor degree as per the Canadian education standard, and my master degree also considered is a 4 years bachelor degree according to Canadian education standard. My master degree specialization in banking and insurance field, and bachelor degree specialization in accounting and the financial. So, and I have almost 15 years of work experience in the financial organization, anti-money laundering act, and everything. But here, as per the mentioned David, so many things employer are going to do not more focus on some grammatical mistakes, right? But I am going to face that things a very much in my interview. I'm not going to introduce or don't going to reflect any employer name here. But yes, I go through in-person interview five one of the very high qualified and very well-known reputation organization here. But still, they are already go through with my reference check, in-person interviews, select my resume because I'm work in a compliance field, anti-money laundering act, right? So I go through and learn my skill financial services from basic level to up to that level. Still, still employer feel I'm not capable. And one of the employer, I'm not going to one more time I'm saying I'm not going to tell you the name of that employer, but uh, that employers, some references. I asked that employers why you are not going to select that lady. You are going to screen this lady, this is a resume and like this. So that employer asks that person, no, that lady has a very good knowledge in financial sector, but because of the language barrier, I do not going to means hired her. If you are if I have a language barrier, so how do you know I have a knowledge in finance field? So I face a lot of this kind of the situation as an immigrant because I'm a highly educated. I have a experience in the financial organization, how to manage accuracy, how to manage documentation process. No, I agree. From my country to here, financial some process are little bit different. But I'm not that type of employee. You need to be provide me 100% your attention. If you give me at least 50 to 60% attention or only 40%, so I have a capability to catch that things very soon.
And if I can weigh in here, Krishna, I think first of all, thank you for the very very
I'm
genuine
sorry,
revelation.
this is a very disappointing for me, right? Because I do not want to do any that kind of the job because I have all kind of the certificate as well, whichever they required.
Yeah, exactly. I think Krishna, I think what you just shared, I think it brings a very
I'm
very
really very sorry, guys. I do not want to disclose that now my frustration level is are already up to cross level. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
you hope you understood.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. We totally do.
Yeah, but I think, Krishna, I think you just brought a very important point. I think personally, I also feel very resonated because also a first generation immigrant, and I know that sometimes how hard and is how overwhelming it is to kind of navigate the labor market in Canada and really try to land the first job that really make you feel like okay, it is a good use of your previous certificates, education, and skills. And I think all that said. I think it really points down to I think what Daniel has shared in the opening part. So really, because at our team we really engage with employers, business associations across Canada, and try to engage employers and really shift their mindset and their hiring practices. So obviously today's presentation we just focus on employer playbook, but I think at the same time we don't want to sugarcoat. Employer playbook cannot resolve the issues you just mentioned. So that really pinpoints the importance of a system approach. And I think we are on that route. But I think it will take time. But also when you look at employers, they are situated as a spectrum. So there are employers like what you just mentioned. So the issues behind that can be multifaceted. There may be like the awareness. They never worked with kind of job seeker from an immigrant background, not recognizing the values that they bring to an organization. Sometimes they just
See, I have a 5-month experience with the financial organization in Winnipeg as well, with Agenda Blog. It's a very well, highly tax filing organization. I'm not saying I have only experience in the my Indian background, but I have a 5-month experience with Winnipeg as well.
If I may just, Krishna, I think thanks for sharing your experience in that's why we're here, right? Like we want to be also hearing from other employers in the room in terms of some of from the employer perspective, what are some of the challenges they face? Your challenge is unfortunately all too common, and there's no wonder that Canada loses about 1/3 of all of the immigrants that come into the country. They actually leave the country because they came with the promise of a better future and their skills being recognized, and they often find that that's not the case, and that's a great loss for Canada. And so we're on the same boat here. We hear your frustration, and if you want to connect offline, also for what is worth,
And
maybe
it's wonder. It's wonder. I went over there for the in-person interview. They are not
I
going
know,
to
Krisha,
select.
I'm
They
just
are not
also
going to
cognizant
select.
that
And after 1 month, they are posting the same position with same requirement.
yeah, it's
It's a really actually job requirement for you guys, and what kind of thing actually you want. If you
I,
want, so you can hire at least for the 1 month or 2 months and just recognize that employee's capacity and capabilities and skill. Then after you provide that employees a permanent job offer.
I think I would say, Krishna, this is just left the email there. Reach out to them. That also cognizant that this may not be the right place for having the conversation. I think we're here on the same page with you and supportive of your situation.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I totally understand your situation,
I'm sorry,
Krishna.
guys,
Like
but
we're all
I'm
no,
sorry. Sorry,
it's
but I
fine.
applied
I'm
a
glad
lot
we're
and I
able
face
to.
so many this kind of the situation. That's why I
I
become a very
know.
frustrated. I'm
Yeah, we
really very
totally
sorry, guys. I'm not
understand.
going to disappoint anyone.
No
Still
worries at
I'm
all.
applying with one hope. No, one day
Yes,
I'll got
sure.
a good job.
Sure, definitely something will come
Whatever
up very
happens,
soon.
happens for a good reason. I always believe in that, in positive
Yeah,
mindset.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, always I apply each and every position,
yeah.
either in a very entry level position, because I know to
Okay.
gain a good experience and a higher
Yeah,
level,
sure.
I always go through with the entry level. So I always
Yeah.
prefer entry level job. Not I feel
Okay.
I'm a head's position to provide me a managerial
Mm-hmm.
position.
Mm-hmm.
I believe entry level is the very best position to go anywhere. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, guys. Please disappoint. My point of view are not going to disappoint anyone.
Thank you very much, Krishna. I totally understand. And like I said, please immediately after this meeting, reach out to Rima or myself for further discussions, and then we'll take this up, please. Feel
Thank you
free
so
to
much,
reach
guys.
out to us. Thank you
I
very
really
much. We
appreciate.
don't want to take much
No,
of
I
everyone's time because we have a couple of questions for
yeah,
people to ask.
I really appreciate you and Manitoba Start and the OAP as well. They are also providing a very
Thank
good
you. Oh,
opportunity.
great, great.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you
I
very
got
much.
my H&R block job from the interview from the Manitoba Start.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you very
Thank you.
much. So, moving on, I was just wondering, do we have anyone who has any questions or as answers to the questions posted by David here real quick before we have few minutes to the end of this webinar? Like which tools from the employer playbook could you identify today that could help address the challenges mentioned? And are there any ideas from employer playbook that your organization has been implementing? If you have any questions or answers to that, could you please let us know, please? Or any discussions you feel we can take up, please feel free to reach out. But for me, while we're waiting for questions, David, I was just wondering, like, I think I wrote down a few questions here, especially for SMEs. I wrote a lot, so I just quickly. Yeah, for me, David, I was just wondering, how can SMEs begin to implement inclusion practices with the limited resources they have? Do you have any ideas on how we can further assist SMEs with the limited resources they have based on the number of employers they have, and being able to have inclusion practices in the workplace? How do you think SMEs can go about that?
Yep. Thank you, Casey. I think that's a big question. So I'm happy to weigh in, and also feel free to chime in, Daniel, with your kind of inputs. I feel like for SMEs, I think I think that they are a group of the stakeholders we think of when we develop the resource employer playbook, because looking at the business representation in Canada, we know that predominantly when you talk about employer, they're SMEs who usually elect the human resources to really navigate the government, the red tapes, the paperwork, and what it really includes. From an employer compliance perspective, what it means to hiring immigrants to their workplace. So that's why when we talk about employer playbook, it has to be straightforward, it has to be neat, it has to be employer friendly. And also for SMEs, I think to really start, I think looking at the whole cycle, I think just focusing, small incremental steps without, focusing on being over too ambitious. And from our employer consultations we have conducted around the country, so what we find is that usually, especially in small, close-knit communities, so when SMCs they have managed to land the first hire, I think so that whole employment process is kind of a big lessons learned for the SMEs, and also for immigrants themselves, they are really capable of building their communities by themselves. So we have heard the anecdotal experiences from SMCs that when they start really navigate the first round of all the kind of protocols, when they landed the first immigrant staff, then the follow-up recruitment efforts just becomes relatively straightforward. But yeah, I'm not sure if Daniel, have other inputs.
Yeah, no. What I would say, it really depends on what is the pain point of the small business. Is it getting people in the door? Is it keeping people? The playbook can offer like small tweaks sometimes that you can adapt that will not require a lot of effort on your end. I'm thinking, for example, we've seen that in job descriptions, for example, including a diversity statement often catches the eye of immigrants. So if you're finding that immigrants are not applying to the jobs that you post, maybe it's about changing the way you just adding a sentence. Some organizations have seen a twofold increase in applications just by doing that, for example. And you can find even ChatGPT can support you with drafting a diversity statement that feels true to your values as a small business owner. The second thing I would say in the interview process, similarly, there's really small things that you can do to make it more inclusive for immigrants. For example, if you're doing interviews over Zoom, so sometimes just pasting the questions in the chat and giving people the time to read them gives them a reassurance that you're being mindful that English is not their first language, for example. And so there's in all of those small tips you can find in the playbook. Similarly, for retention and for onboarding, we understand that the buddy system is great if you have a company of 100 people and you can match them. But if it's a team of like 3, 4 that are overworked, it may not be feasible to have an onboarding buddy. But what you can do is have like if you have already hired some other newcomers in your company, maybe it's having an informal chat that you organize once a month, and then they have the opportunity to connect over breakfast with the team and just have questions as they go into the onboarding. So there's really, based on your capacity as a small business owner, you can always do something that you can change. And so just an encouragement, as David said, to go in the playbook is very easy to navigate. And depending on the pain point that you have, what is the issue that you're facing, there is like these small tweaks that you can do to change your HR practice. There's also bigger, if you're ready for more, there's also a lot of other things that you can do and a lot of templates, a lot of checklists in terms of have you thought about this? And sometimes it's just a switch in your mindset when you're going to meet the immigrant. So we provide those checklists for people to just read before meeting the candidates. And sometimes that can give you like some insight into the experiences of immigrants so that you can be more understanding of why are they responding in a specific way? Or why are they not looking to you in the eye? Or why? So it gives you the cultural sensitivity just by even reading like in 5 minutes, really, a checklist that is available in the playbook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you very much. Like, I'm so glad you were able to just, provide insights into that question, and it's a really good one, especially in the area of having a diversity statement that is so, awesome for everyone, as a diversity statement that speaks to their organization. But very quickly, we have just 5 more minutes. One last question. I was just thinking, because of our experience, the refugee hiring event and all of that, and trying to assist refugees into the workplace as well. What role do you think language proficiency play in hiring decisions, and how can employers balance communication with inclusion? Because as we know, a lot of refugees have low English levels, and so we're wondering how can employers, assist in helping them into the workplace without that low level English barrier.
Yeah. I'll maybe jump on this one quickly with 2 examples from employers that we've worked with. One of them is coming from the region of Waterloo, and their manufacturing facility. So it's somehow a large employer with, I don't know now, but a couple of years ago it was about 150 headcount. And what they had done is they understood the many newcomers may not have the language that was required to initially they thought to be safe at work and be able to just not have any liability issues as an employer because your employees cannot understand the signage and may get into a risky situation. And so what they did was 2 things. The first thing they did is understand what languages were those that were spoken by their staff as a first language, and they translated all of the signage in the company into those languages to ensure that every sign about how to handle machinery, how to open this valve, everything was really translated. And then what they did as well was to pair up employees from the same cultural background and language background that had English proficiency. And so they created cohorts where they had a lead that was proficient in English and also in their mother tongue, and they would be like a mentor to them. So they would actually work with them to ensure that they understood all of the policies, the announcements, the regulations within the workplace, and any questions related to specific issues were addressed to the lead of that cohort of employees. So that's just one example of something an employer can be creative to be able more inclusive of those who don't have full proficiency of English. Another example comes from Moncton. One of the refugee hiring events, we actually had one employer that was they do pita bread, and so they produce a lot of pita, and they're very good pita. We tried; it was delicious, and so the skills required to make pita are not necessarily language skills. So what they did in that case for the interview, they actually brought from the community partners in the community, the settlement agencies. They brought volunteers to help them with the interview process, and so they would have someone just translating for them at the event.
Wow, awesome.
When the people were hired into the roles, they would have also volunteers from the community to assist with the legal paperwork and ensuring that they understand all of everything.
Yes.
And then folks were then paired up again in the company with one person that understood English well, so that they could ask any questions going forward. And at that event alone, they hired over 12 people that did not speak any English or very little.
Awesome.
So there is it really depends on the needs of the company and their ability to adapt. But there are ways in which for other roles, you may need to be fully proficient in English, and you need to be, because you're a customer facing role and you're talking to folks out. So it really depends on the needs of the employer. But I would say many roles based on conversations with the employers do not require a level of a 6 or 7 or 8 level of English, right? They could be done with less. It's just more of how do we make it work in the workplace that sometimes is a barrier.
Right. Most importantly. Yeah. Thank you very much. We are right on time. Thank you so much. And I know you guys have a webinar as well to jump right into from your organization, which I'm going to also join as well once we log out of this. Thank you very much, David and Daniel. It was a great time having you provide insights into the employer playbook and how employers can best support inclusive hiring, retention, onboarding, and integration of newcomers at the workplace. Thank you very much. This is one of our webinar series, and please, as an attendee, feel free to reach out to us or David and Daniel as well of WES or through us. We will be posting this webinar on our website and the details, and would also be reaching out to you with a survey to ask what you feel we should do next, or any other discussions you feel we can have with either employers or subject matter experts, to support employers into hiring and retention of newcomers at the workplace. Thank you very much. It was great to have both of you, and we will be ending the webinar right now. Thank you very much, and
thank you.
have a great day.
Thank you all.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right.
Thank
Bye.
you so much for joining, everyone. Bye-bye.